Boy, those Pharisees are pretty tricky, aren't they? They're going to try and trip Jesus up by asking him a question, a loaded question. They haven't figured it out yet that when somebody asks Jesus a direct question, oftentimes he won't give them a direct answer. He'll ask a question of his own. Is it lawful to pay the tax or not? Show me the coin. Whose image and whose inscription? Let me ask you a question. If you were a coin, whose image and inscription would be on you? Maybe you're thinking, gosh, that's an easy one. I know where you're going with this, Deacon. The answer is God's, right? Yes. But I'm going to tell you why. At creation, we read in Genesis that God created human beings in his image and likeness. Male and female, he created them. Image and likeness. His stamp, his inscription, right on us from creation. But more than that, he gives us life. Again, in Genesis it says, and God formed the man from the ground, from the dirt, and he breathed the breath of life into his nostrils. The breath of life. He does that with us too. He breathes in us his divine life, his very spirit, so that when we're born and we take that first breath, what we're actually doing is we are speaking the name of God for the first time. And we begin to give back to God what belongs to him. Us. And when we can't speak the name of God anymore, we stop breathing and we die. And we begin to return to God the rest of the way. Even Jesus spoke about this. He would say how he came from the Father and he was returning to the Father. We belong to God. Now that can be a comforting thought for many of us, but maybe for some of us it's not. I don't know if I want to belong to God. That's a big commitment. I don't like to commit to things. I like doing things my own way. I'm better off on my own. Or maybe you let yourself belong to someone before, maybe even God, and you get burned in some way. And you say to yourself, I'm not doing that again. Go away. I'm better off on my own. I'm here to tell you. Are you listening? No, you're not. You're not. I know, I tried it. I've lived that way more than once. I'm better off on my own. No, I wasn't. Not at all. Maybe you live that way too. Maybe you're living that way right now. You're not better off on your own. We weren't designed for that. We weren't made for that. The Lord calls us by name. He calls each one of you by name. We see it all throughout Scripture. We heard it in the first reading. I called you by name. We see it in the Old Testament. Abraham, Jacob, Moses, others. The New Testament, Simon, whom he named Peter. The 12. Saul, who became Paul. He calls us by name. He knows us. If that's kind of hard to get your head around or your heart around, read Psalm 139. It's not very long, but it's a beautiful psalm. It's a beautiful prayer of thanksgiving for how God knows us, made us. Just a few lines from it. Lord, you formed my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. When I was being made in secret, fashioned in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw me unformed. In your book, all are written down. My days were shaped before one came to be. Don't be surprised by this. And don't be afraid of it. Listen for it. Listen for Him. Embrace it. Embrace Him. The God of the universe created you to live and to love and to be loved and to belong to someone. To belong to Him. And He's put you here on this earth for a limited time for a particular mission that only you can fulfill. We belong to God. And more than that, God belongs to us. We hear the words at every Mass. This is my body, which will be given up for you. This is my blood, which will be poured out for you. And every time we hear Jesus speak those words through the priest, how could we not? How could we not realize the love that God has for us, that He didn't spare His only Son to redeem us? But more than that, He gives us the Eucharist. We get to actually partake and feed on His body and blood to strengthen us and form us more and more into the women and men that God created us to be. Now, when I get to distribute communion, I love doing this for many reasons, but one really cool thing is sometimes when I hold up the precious body and I say the body of Christ, I'll see the person looking over my left shoulder, and they're looking up. And we're looking at the statue of the risen Christ. They are having a moment with the Lord right there, but I have a front row seat. And it's wonderful. And I know that in different areas of the church, your vantage point is such that you may not always be able to see the statue of the risen Christ. So I want you to try this today. Think about this. When you come up to receive the Eucharist, and the minister holds up the precious body and says the body of Christ, listen and hear Jesus say your name. Joe. Mary. And then hear Him say, I belong to you. And when you say amen, in your heart you are saying to Jesus, and I belong to you. And when you go from here today, know who you are and know whose you are. Belong to God as He belongs to you. And do everything you can to give back to God what belongs to God. You. Your heart, your mind, your soul, and your strength. And let's rejoice. Let's rejoice that we are His. But more than that, let's rejoice that He is ours.